Sorry.
Yeah, that'll do.
Does it sound
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
fine
better
by
now?
me. Is that a lot better for you?
Oh man, it's way better, way better. What did you do there? What was your magic touch?
She connected the microphone.
Twat. You're such a dickhead.
Marcy, I'm just gonna get the dog out because otherwise she's gonna be jumping up.
It's all right. It's all right, man. This is the best intro to a podcast ever.
Is that live?
I don't know.
I'm recording it. I could put this bit in.
He's like, yeah.
Live.
He's like, I don't have to.
You're such a dickhead, John.
So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Well, there we go. I don't think we need to say anything else.
Yeah.
It's a good job. You're a good tattoo artist. No, I'm joking.
No, it's literally, if it wasn't for her sorting it out, then I would literally still be drawing on paper. So,
Mate, right. So let's start from the very start, man. How are you doing, man? How is everything with you now? Because like, it's weird how when I first started doing these with people, or realistically tattoo artists, it was the first port of call was like, well, we're not working. You know what I mean? So how is it for you now going back to work, man?
so weird. If you'd asked me like a week ago, I'd be like, fucking awesome. Do you know what I mean? Which is like, because it was like, I knew what was happening. Like pre-lockdown, it was all like, what are we doing? That was all tense. Then they said, have a couple of months off, we'll pay for it. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to paint. You know,
Yeah.
And then we were talking about organising this, and then an hour later, out of nowhere, they're like, "You're back on work in 2 days," and I'm like, "Oh God!" Like the studio, like I had shit planned. I was like, "Well, I'm not doing that now." Like,
Yeah, it was well hard, man. It's weird in my head, right? I felt like, well, I went through like a roller coaster of emotions with it. You know, I would be like, no, I'm fine with this. I'm cool with this. And then like, some days would feel like Groundhog Day. Some days I would just be hankering so much to tattoo that, you know, I'm such a happy-go-lucky person. It would get me down a little bit, and I'm just like, I just want to do a tattoo, man. I just want to do a tattoo. You know, and my brother kept threatening to come.
Did you go through the stage of being like, I'm going to tattoo myself?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And you're like, no, actually, that sounds horrific.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, I tried that when I first started, man. I tried that, and I remember I remember when I first started doing something on my ankle. I kind of picked my leg onto my other knee, and I'm like, as soon as I started, I was like, oh shit. This hurts, doesn't it? This
is rubbish. Yeah. Man, I've got a whole leg of that.
Yeah.
It's like someone's like, can you do a portrait? I'm like, give me a day and I'll fucking find out.
I love that. Every tattoo artist, you just got to look at the leg, the right leg, or generally if they're right-handed, the left leg. You're just got to look at it.
For sure. Yeah. And then like the inside's quite nice where I can't reach. Like, yeah.
Yeah, man. I quickly realized with that I much prefer two hands, like undisturbed, on me doing the tattoo and me just focusing on not moving and on other things other than trying to render something that I really want on my body. You know, I'd rather just like, I did a few ones and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to let someone else do this. Like, you know.
Man, when I first started tattooing in the studio, I'd done my arm myself, like this bit. So arrogant. I was like, man, no one else gets me. Like, I know what I want, you know, like who's going to make that? Like Jeff Gogre's in America. I'm just going to do it myself. Like, and 2 years later, people are like, you tattoo yourself? And you're like, yeah, I did my arm. And they're like, and I'm like, it was a while ago.
That's well funny. That is such a funny story. In fact,
and I was like, that has to fucking go, man.
Yeah. So what happened to it? Did you get rid of it?
Yeah, just literally out of like that moment, there's 10 seconds where a client goes, I've seen you do good work, so I don't think it's going to turn out like that. Like, I was like, yeah, I can't.
That's so funny.
That was like the whole thing about getting my arm covered up was like, it needs to go, man.
It needs to go, yeah. I've seen people do that, man, actually. That's not like I've been tattooing for 13 years, so I've seen people that have done that have tattooed their other arm. It's generally their left arm. And it always used to boggle my mind, like, because, I mean, you can get away, in essence, I mean, Guy Aitchison always talks about the 3-point stretch, and that's something that just instantly just came into like my practice. But then I was thinking, like, how do people do it? But you can sometimes get away with not full. Yeah,
Tape and like,
yeah. Really trying to. Yeah, there's certain ways that you don't fully have to stretch, but it's only certain parts of the body. You know what I mean? But if you want it to heal properly, you've got to get a full stretch in it. So yeah, it's interesting to see people's scratched left arms.
Man, even if I could stretch the skin myself, it was not good work. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the stupidness of being like, yeah, I know me better than like anyone else will, and we're like, yeah, I won't regret this in 2 years. Like, I'm pretty much as amazing as it can get. Like,
I love that though. And that's it. I think that's. I don't even know if this is true, but I feel like that confidence that you exuded back then shows in your work now, and in a really like. I mean, everybody's got an ego, and you're like you're a really nice guy, but I think that is something that shone through, you know, the confidence of like, I'm going to do this on myself because I know what I want and I know what I'm
yeah,
capable of,
for sure.
you know? Yeah. So now it shines through to you now being where you're at, you know, I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It humbled me enough to be like, what a twat. Like, you know, like every time I'm like, yeah, I've nailed it. I'm like, yeah, tomorrow you're going to be like, that guy, man. Like, just, yeah, it's just ridiculous, but it's fine, you know, like learned the lesson the hard way and we've moved on.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So you've got back into the flow, but like, is there any negatives from being back at work apart from the fact that we've got to dress up like Boba Fett? You know, like what you know, what is the negatives?
Well, thank God I don't have a beard or hair.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
if this was like, you know, like, fuck that, man. No, it's been all right. I did 2 days where I was back and then I had a day off. But I was saying to you earlier on, like, I was supposed to take on a bunch more commissions, and I said to people like, yeah, I think we've got a month, so I'll let you know. But I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna paint for fun for a bit again. Like, I'd done a month of like work and was like, I'm gonna paint some stupid shit because that's funny and it's a really great waste of time. So, and I'm so glad I did, because now I'm just finishing up a couple of ones that I lagged on. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot to hit the ground running.
Yeah, it doesn't. It was weird, man, because I got someone said to me, one of my closest friends, he was like, yeah, he was talking to me through at the start of lockdown. And it was like a month in, and he's like, oh, it's crazy, man. I bet you can't wait to eventually go back to work, whenever that's going to be. It could be a long, long time. Do you think you'll have forgot how to tattoo? I was like, no. I mean, I fucking hope not. I mean, fuck. Now
Well,
I think I'm fine.
my thing was like, I don't know how to tattoo anyway. Like, so I've been fucking making it up from the word go. So like, yeah, maybe I'll be doing it. I've noticed, weirdly enough, like my aim with like lockdown was make my artistic instinct better. Like, just look at something, do it. Like, so I got really into ala prima work, which was really fun and like a lot less taxing than like the laborious, like tiny brushes and all this shit.
Yeah.
And now going back, like slowing down, you know, I'm trying to brush it in and I'm like, it's like, slow down again. Like, there's no rush, man.
Yeah.
So that's been hard a little bit, but it's changed and maybe it'll stay that way. It's coming out all right. I've got no problems with it.
Mate, you smashed that 2-day session, you know, with the native Indian lady with the headdress and stuff.
Man,
you know?
he's such a babe, that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I've had the luck of like, when it stopped, I just had the best week to start again. Like, you know, like I'm pretty sure you must have had the same. People, you were just like, yeah, I want to spend a week hanging out with these people. Like,
yeah. And for me, adult conversation felt like, oh my God, breath of fresh air, you know, like, I mean, I'm a dad, so I'm on with the kids all the time and trying to occupy conversations about.
Have you gone back to baby brain?
Yeah. A little bit. I'm not now. I've had I work with a potty mouthed northerner called Nico, and she's amazing, man. She's a very, very close friend. But it's so good to be back in the studio and her being like, hey, yo, you fucking, you know.
I have that. Like, I cannot not swear. Like, I spend my entire life in an adult environment. If a kid's around me, I'm like, is that a swear word? And they're like, yeah, it's like a really bad one. And I'm like, there's not a lot I can do about it.
It's just a word. I mean,
yeah, it's not my fault if they know what it means.
yeah, try not to use it, kids, but it is a good way of getting a point across, you know. No, it's hard with kids. Like, I mean, thankfully, my kids aren't absorbent with them kind of words, and I do kind of just, I said exactly that to my daughter, and she's so like, oh, okay. And then I took her to a boxing session, and she sat outside the ring, and my trainer is from Haywood, so he's like, hey, yo, mate, right, what you want to fucking do? Yeah, going off and on. And when I got back out and sat in the car, I was like, sweetheart, that is an example of someone who swears too much.
Man, I was trying to set up an art event a couple of years ago. So I was trying to get a bunch of like all the amazing artists that we know, or maybe people I don't know, but like I was like, come paint with me. That'd be fucking sick.
Yeah.
So I had to walk around London Convention, it was being like, hey, I don't know you, but I want to talk to you about art. But I use the F word instead of an and like, or a comma, or when I'm feeling uncomfortable. My girlfriend kicked me in the leg, and I was like, what was that for? And she was like, every second word was the F word. And I was like, oh yeah, they might think I'm a weirdo. I was just so used to, like, I was going up to like people like Matthew James and be like, let's hang out, like, you know, you're a guy, I'm a guy,
Yeah.
guys. And it was like, no, that you came across as a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, sometimes, you know, like, you know, when you're in a situation like that, whenever I used to go to massive conventions like that, because, you know, London's one of those, isn't it, where you know, you're walking around and you go into certain rooms and you're just like, oh my God, it's you. Oh my God, it's you. Oh my God, it's you. Oh my God. And when you get a chance to speak to people, it's hard to remember that they're literally just human beings, you know, like, and it's weird how we do as a, they are just artists as well, but I get it.
So, like, they're literally, they're not even like famous.
No.
You know, like you say to someone, oh, Nico Atado, and they're like, who? And you're like,
come on, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like, exactly, man. Shijay, you know, you must know who Shijay is. And they're like, no, like,
no.
What?
What does he do? And you're like, tattoos, and they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like white noise then. Yeah. No, yeah, it's one of them that when you go to a place like that, you realize just how much we do put them on a pedestal, but it's for a good reason, man, because in our industry, when you're in a place like that, you're surrounded by just like tons and tons of inspiration. And whenever I used to come away from something like that, it was just like, ooh, I need to get better. And I go back to the studio and all that kind of stuff. It was insane. But what I would say about coming back from COVID-19 lockdown is it has done the same to me, man. I think it's slowed me down. I've started working, and I don't know if I'm just like, because it's been 4 months, I'm like just really more thinking about the fact that, do I know how to tattoo? Yeah, I do. But what am I actually doing? You know, like, right, you know, you're thinking about how, I start thinking more about what I'm actually doing since I've been back. I don't know. It's really weird. And I've been given a ton of different tattoo styles to do since I've been back as well, you know.
Yeah, I found it like I've got so many bad habits because I started tattooing without an apprenticeship. So the worst habits you can fucking have. I was touching shit with gloves that, you know, your mum wouldn't touch.
Yeah, let's get onto this. Go on. Like, your early days, what were they like, man?
Illegal. I don't know how else to describe it, man. Oh, man. To put it in context, right? So first time I heard of you was someone I know, Cody Smith, came and guested with you. And I was like, God, this guy's so good. But I wouldn't even comment on your fucking Instagram because I was like, I don't work in a studio. Like, you know, I don't want someone looking at my stuff and be like, stop what you're doing. And like, I tried so hard. So I was just like, and this little, like, I'm just doing what I'm doing. Like, leave me alone. So yeah, that's what it was like. But you know, but now I've had this little like 3 months of not doing anything. I go back in the studio, I set up as I've been planning to set up, and full on back to like really good habits. Like it's broken all that stuff of like grabbing kitchen roll out of a drawer rather than leaving it on top. Like that was the one that I just could not break. I'd put like kitchen roll on the top of my station and I'd open my drawer and pick it up. And I was like, yeah, without even thinking. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, that's just where it came from. So
I think it's hard as well. Like, what I mean, maybe put forward to you here as well, because you're an incredible painter. So like, and I think when you're in that situation, you probably might be a really tidy, clean painter. But I think when you're in a certain situation, your mind's flowing and you're moving. It's fucking hard sometimes when you are tattooing. And I'm saying this when quite a lot of tattooists are going to listen to this, to keep focus on actually staying meticulously clean. You do have your barriers in place, but when you're flowing on a piece and it's like go, 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 I sometimes end up looking at my tissue in my hand and I'm like, I need to change this tissue now. Oh my God. Because it's just full, it's just black. You know what I mean?
And it's dry. It's just made of like crusty blood, and it's closer to like a prison shiv than it is to like a dry fucking like wipe thing. You wetted it like half an hour ago, and you're like, it's wet. And it's like, yeah, it's wet with their tears. Like,
that's fucking genius. Yeah, man. So I think I don't know. I always find myself just in like I definitely had to pin that down quite a lot. You know, there's a lot of things in place with barriers and stuff like that, but just making sure that I'm like, right, I've got tons of tissue. You don't need to keep hold of the same one. Just keep on top of everything. Keep going. You know what I mean? You've got this routine going down, but I don't know. It's a weird one. You've got to talk to me more about this early beginnings, though. I'm going to pick at it, Josh. What was it? What? Obviously, I think I did when I first started, man. I did a couple of tattoos at home, and then I ended up tattooing in a alchemy fucking shop, and it was the worst thing ever.
what? So you were like, I can tattoo, and they were like, yeah, you can. That's a tattoo. Like from what the photo shows, and it was just like, done it.
Yeah, basically, man. Yeah, man. You know, like what you say is weird, right? Is this because I've spoke about this, and this has been on a few podcasts now, and I really enjoy touching on this kind of thing because it's nice to hear where people do come from, in a sense of like where you are now. I absolutely love your work. You are like, I really, really do, you know? So it's like to see, but then you could say the same about me. And I could say, yeah, man, I fucking tattooed my mates in my house. I remember doing a nautical star on someone. Oh, mate, really quick story. This guy wanted 3 nautical stars on the inside of his forearm. Nautical, right? You know what I mean? Black, white, black, white, black, white.
Yeah, and you always try and cut a shortcut and you end up colouring them in, so you have to shade them.
I had a room full of people as well, and they were all fucking getting high, smoking weed and stuff. And I was like, yeah, so I'm trying to focus on this. It's one of my second or third tattoos. This is for one of his fallen mates from the army. And I'm like, right, so I'm doing it. And just that warm came over me when I realized I colored black, white, black, black. Ooh, oh, shit. And that was it, man. And there was a few incidents like that, though, Josh, where it could have completely put me off, but it didn't. You know what I mean? Did you ever have anything like that?
It sounds horrific, honestly, right? So, man, I will preface that, like, I try really hard now, you know? Like, I do the work before. Like, I'm like, I know when you do shortcuts, it does not pay off. Like,
No.
for sure. So I go through it methodically and I've got a system. But yeah, like I learned that like confidence, like fucking, I would say I was a better conman than I was a tattooist. And like, that's a horrific thing to say, but man, I was tattooing people, they'd be like, well, if I don't buy fags, then I can have an extra hour of tattooing and like next week I'll get my benefits again. So I can do another hour, you know? And I was like, oh, so we'll do half a dragon. Like, but you confidence it out. You say, man, I colored this side in a bit black because like it just looked a bit flat and your skin's quite pale. Like,
Yeah.
horrific lies. Like,
Yes.
no, like, I don't want to judge them for it, but for people who don't really care, man, like, I tattooed a guy whose stepbrother was a tattooist who I ended up working for, but he'd rather come to me because I was 30 quid an hour, you know, or something like, you know, so I feel horrific about it. And I spend my entire career just being a little bit happy. And then one of these just pop tattoos, just boom, 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 boom. you remember when you did this? And I'm like, oh yeah, like, good, right, I'll just lay down here then.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
But it is what it is, I guess. I learned to like, I think I learned shop talk, of like convincing people the best.
Yeah, I think I definitely will like join along with you there with that kind of thing. I think just recently, someone just before lockdown, I tattooed someone and I did my second tattoo on him, and it was just like, oh God, when you look at it, oh man, do you know what, man? Even a year into my tattooing career, who am I even
At a
fooling?
studio or just
Yeah,
at this dragon shop?
yeah, no, even after when I got into like my first studio and I was really learning the tools of the craft then, and you're like, no, this is cool before I got my own studio and you're doing your own thing. But then when you see stuff like that now and your lines are blown and your design is obviously, because we evolve as artists, so something that you did 10 years ago, you're going to be like, oh no, what's that, like what was I even thinking, like, because to get good at drawing dragons, the only way to get good at drawing dragons is fucking learning how to draw dragons and drawing them time and time again, or
Again and again. Even when
and
you
again.
know,
Yeah.
you only know a frame, and then the rest is like, get rid of the kinks. Remember what you've done wrong and don't do it again, for sure.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And if you want to be good at that kind of thing, that's the only way to do it, is just reps. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's hard, man. There's like, I think that was something that that keeps me on my toes even to this day, because like, you only do a finite number of tattoos before you eventually die, or your hands like wither away and you can't use them. So they've got to be fucking good. So like, you've got to try and get good at it quick.
Mm.
you know?
Which, like, I just didn't understand. Like, you know what? Something it really taught me was time served doesn't mean time paid. Like, you hear it all the time of like, I'm a 25-year-old of 25 years tattooing. You shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. Like, there's people, we're in like a really densely populated tattoo town. There is, last time we counted 21, 23 tattoo studios in our town. And some of them are old, some of them are new. In fact, a lot of them are new. But just because you've done the time doesn't mean you're owed anything. Like, you've got to be mindful every time you do a tattoo. If you don't improve on that, or if you, every time you chip a bit off or you just do a little less, then it's not learning, And that's, I think, like, the first 3 years of me tattooing, all it taught me was, I didn't learn any tattooing. I just learned how to blag my way out of, or to get better clients. Like,
Yeah, yeah. But I think, man, living in Colchester and living around that area, and it being so saturated with high level artists, really will force you into a diamond, won't it? Like, you'd like to think that, again, it's something that's forcing you to keep you on your toes, and forcing you to actually get better. Because I think, there's just levels to people, like you were saying. There's levels to tattoo collectors. Like, there's somebody that's being like, oh, I'll spend £30 and I'll get this tattoo, or whatever. And then there's people that are like, they don't even bring the price up. Like with Marcus, when you got tattooed with Marcus, you wouldn't have even said like, dude, what are we talking? You would have just been like, I know that this is probably going to be thousands. I'm going to go over. I'm just going to spend some time with this guy, and I want him to just do something on my arm that I'm going to love until I die. Like that. That is.
I wasn't even fussed if I liked it, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I'm not a huge fan of biomech. Like, it sounds really horrific, but 1 out of 50 biomech artists, I'll be like, yeah. And then like 1 out of 3 of their work, like Marcus, Guy, maybe Stepanego, or however you pronounce that. Like, and
Yeah.
he's, without dissing him, he's an offshoot of Marcus in some respects. Like, that's very obviously influenced, but like, they're one of the few artists that, like, every time I see it, like, before, if I've seen their name, I'm like, I'm gonna love this.
Yeah.
But we live in a military town, so like, a lot of clouds, a lot of angels. This year, a lot of lions. And I was like, I just need to do something that's not, I want to learn something that's not black and gray, and because you reach a stalemate.
Yeah, I think myself, I've always been. It's weird with bio. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, it's so aesthetically pleasing as a tattoo art. Like you said, you can get lions, you can get tigers, you can get pocket watches, and it is what it is. It literally is what it is. That's an
Mm.
actual object or an animal or something. But the best thing about tattoo, a biomech or something like that, is it's literally art for the body, which is, again, like you say, it's such a saturated genre as well. There's so many people that do not stand out, but for me, again, and isn't it weird how, for me, Guy and Marcus are just like boom, right to the top. Like they just seem to, their work just seems to be and it sounds really bad saying that, because there are so many really good. Adrian Dominic's really good. There's loads of people that are high level bio artists, but for some reason, I don't know whether it's not even the way it's presented. It's the way it's rendered and finished and everything and designed and composed.
Combination. It's inscrutable as
Yes,
far
yes,
as I'm where even if I'm super critical and it comes across, I think, sometimes as arrogance, but it's really not, because it's exactly what I place on my own work. So I wouldn't say to someone's, if I said, if I'd done this, this is what I think would still be wrong with it. And like, they get it right, like a lot more than I do, because they're better people than I am, better artists at least. But like Adrian Dominic, amazing realism painter. I actually only came across him through he was doing those religious paintings. He had that lamb with the big cross
yes.
through it. Like, and I was like, Jesus, there's a guy who like goes from left to right in a day. He's like, he whacks out Renaissance and then he's back to future. And I'm like, man, you just time traveled. How is that even fucking possible? But and then like if you talk to Marcus, he cites Adrian as a big influence. He uses a lot of like the splits like a symmetry line down the bicep that
Yeah,
theoretically folds equal round, so you end up with
right.
all
Yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff. I don't know the technicalities of it, and I wanted to stop him, but it was all too much to absorb all at once.
Stop what you're saying. I need to take in exactly what you're saying now. I need to get it straight into my brain. It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, like from Neo in the Matrix. If I could have that, I would be on that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
just plug me in. But there's so many layers to it that like when they do it, if I go, I don't do it that way, I wouldn't do it that way. You see two moves on or two layers on or 2 inches on, you're like, it had to be that way because of that move. Like,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, fair enough, you've got a bigger plan than I did, and I can't say, well, that's wrong then.
Yeah. That's good though. I think that's a very good thing to have. I think that sets people apart from definitely other people. That the idea of being able to see where there is like where they just needs to be, like you said, something that's composed is not fully composed properly to your eyes unless you move that arch across there, that spike through there, and then just put a backlight behind that bit, and it just yeah, that's the
Yeah,
way I would
suddenly
do it.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. It's like it'd be like someone walking past you and dropping a watermelon on the floor, and you're like, "What's that for?" And then 2 minutes later, a sequence of events, and it looks like a Toyota advert, and like the watermelon rolls and knocks a car going, and a big explosion. Like, just mind blowing to me, Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that, like, even if I don't always enjoy the aesthetic, it can be like perfectly done.
Yeah, man. I agree with you, man. That's very well put as well. I would say that. So what happened? How did you go from being like um a, a noob kind of scratcher in a
You can
certain
say
sense?
shit.
No, 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 Josh. I will not say shit.
Oh,
No,
I'll send you some photos later on, and we'll discuss this.
I'm being nice. No, no, no. How did you go from being like a noob scratcher? Well, that's what I was gonna say. To like getting into a studio and getting hooks into somewhere,
Constant need for validation,
right?
So I started tattooing when I worked at the co-op, which was, so that's like, for anyone that's, I don't know what your audience is like, that's just a supermarket.
Yeah.
And then we moved house, my family like building houses. So we moved into the middle of nowhere and I couldn't work there anymore. So I was tattooing a little bit, was just left college, was absolutely fucking depressed. Like I I was literally suicidal,
Wow.
and just like the only thing that I did in my spare time was draw. So then I started tattooing people and was like, this is awesome. Like, so I started tattooing thinking I was like, I could be good at this. I draw. And then you realize like, and then you see like the scope of it, you know, like you go,
Yeah.
oh, actually, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought. And then I started, at one point, someone bought me some like oil paints for Christmas or something. And I was seeing Jeff Gogway and I was like, even if I'm bad at tattooing, which I didn't think I was, but I knew I wasn't going to be accepted. I didn't understand the gap between what they were doing and what I was doing. And then like a few years later, I read Reinventing the Tattoo and was like, Jesus, like I was over here and they were over here, you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so like things like that are always big eye openers. But I was like, I enjoy painting. So I started painting and I got, you know, like you do, you'll always have 30 people who are just your cheerleaders. They'll be like, yeah, you nailed this. They're like the best in the world. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, definitely we
It,
do have those.
and they were horrific paintings, but I was like, all right, well, I can do this. So I just did it a bit more and then got recognition from like places that weren't those people and was like, yeah, I love painting. Like this is a way to like validate the fact that I'm not tattooing because I can't draw. I tattoo because I can draw or I can paint, and like here's my potential. Let me do it on your skin. As like, and it didn't really go to plan because those kind of the people I was tattooing weren't really interested in that, and I didn't actually have the tattoo ability to pull off on canvas what I could do on skin. But yeah, it was just I just started painting because people were like, wow, this guy's amazing. And they'd see you do that and they'd be like, you must be able to do my mother's portrait. And I'm like, yeah, man. Fuck it.
Yeah, man. But that's really admirable. I think it's definitely something that a lot of people don't do now, and a lot of what people didn't do in the past. You know, the idea of I want to be a tattoo artist. Well, I'm just gonna do it. You know what I mean? No. You have to be good at being an actual artist if you want to be a good tattoo artist. I remember Chris Garver years and years ago on Miami Ink. Years ago, it's well over a decade ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he was like, he said, anybody can be anybody can be a tattoo artist now, but it's about being a good tattoo artist that sets you apart from the field. And I think that's so true. And I think what makes that a good, what gives you the best step up from it or the best start is to have a good eye for art, to have a good eye for composition, to have a good eye for rendering something. So I think what you did was a really good thing. You know, like I'm going to learn how to I'm going to learn how to paint. You know, I think it's really good.
I kind of like, it's nice, but like in some way I kind of disagree, which is like horrific, but I was using it as a crutch. Do you know what I mean? I'd have people be like, man, you can't tattoo. And I'd be like, yeah, look at this painting. And they'd be like, yeah, but you can't tattoo. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a better painter than you are. Like, I'm a better artist. And I'd associate the two with each other. And be like, well, I'm a tattoo artist. So it doesn't matter if my tattoos don't heal always perfect, or like, yeah, I can't pack black. Like, I'd be like, look, I can paint this skull in 10 minutes, you know? And it's like, you know, like me and Cody aren't necessarily great friends because he had a good apprenticeship and learned really quickly. And he was like, yeah, that guy's shit. Like, and I was like, at the time, I kind of was a bit like, what do you know? And now I'm like, yeah, I was pretty shit. Like, it was like, fair enough. Like, fair dues to the man for literally saying it to me and my friends. Like, good call on him, really. Like,
yeah, but what I will say though, man, is I accept your disagreements to what I said, but I mean in a certain sense that, you know, at least you went in with some kind of artistic ability. And I think, honestly, even though you might look back at it and be like, oh, I don't know, you know, I think that even the oil paintings that you're producing right at the start would have had something to them that obviously caught a lot of people's eye. And I think having that and going into it I think personally would have helped you. You might have used it as a like, look, you need to be tattooed for me because look at how good I am at rendering a skull or something. But I personally would think that it has helped you. You know what I mean? You can't be
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just wish I'd fucking listened to someone.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
Like the apprentice I've got at the moment, she she's had like 2 apprenticeships before, and they were bad. And she was like, "This is bad. Like, this isn't," and just quit. And I was like, at one point, I was like, "Is that a bad thing?" And I was like, "No, this woman like knows when she's not gonna take a leg up from the wrong person, like just to get on. You know, she wants to go the right way. Like, what?" Oh, now when I'm out with my friends, if I'm like on a night out and I meet someone and they're like, "I've got this cool idea," and obviously everyone hates that because you're like, just leave me. I don't want to work right now. But every so often, someone has an amazing idea, and you're like, and then my friends go, "Oh, he did this," and I'm like, "Just fucking just stop!" Like,
Yeah.
that was a while ago. Like, not them. Like, and they're like, "Have you done anything good?" And I'm like, "Not on any of them because I know them, but like,
Yeah. And then you're getting your Instagram out, or you're getting like,
yeah."
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I do know what you mean. It is a weird one to, because man, how long have you been tattooing?
Honestly, no idea. Like,
No.
so this is, I don't get like a 10-year anniversary. It's stolen from me through my own fucking ignorance of like, I was 18 and a half ish when I did my first one. And then it might have been 6 months. It might have been 2 months. And I did another one. And then it might have been a month. And you know, and like,
I get what you're saying.
so and then there was like, I started working for a guy who booked my stuff at his house. And then I've been at the studio I'm at for like 5-6 years, and that's lovely, you know. So that's probably my birthday, but I'm a lot older than I look.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's one of the things where like, I don't know. I think everybody would have liked to have a different start in something apart from, like I've brought this up before, apart from people like Michelle Madison or people out there that had just like this amazing start into the industry. And
Have you ever met John?
no, I haven't. No,
He is he did my leg, he did a Terry on me, and it was it was formative.
yeah,
It was mind-blowing. Like, so I messaged him. He was like, so there's a big magazine that you know of in England
yeah,
that's a terrible magazine,
yes,
but every so often it has like one good artist in it, and you're
Yeah.
like, which is like why I think people like me were like, this can't be hard because like there's one good artist in this magazine. So like, but now you got Instagram, it's a lot harder.
yeah,
So I saw his work, and then I found out he's going to be working at the same convention as me, Amsterdam, and I was like, just going to collect a piece from John. Like, well, he was called John then, is now he's Thanks or whatever he is.
yeah.
And like, so he turned up, and they'd missed their flight, so they'd turned up late anyway. And he had Beth Lauren, who's a really good artist now, like she's amazing now. But he was just getting her to do line tattoos at the time. But he came up and borrowed some needles from me because he'd forgotten his needles. And he just stuck this little Terry on me and was like, "So what we doing?" And I was like, "Oh, right." So like, and then like every couple of hours he'd go out and meditate in the back, like in the car park, and like smoke. But he was having like a great time. And I was like, man, this guy is just, he's come to Amsterdam. He's sponsored. So like they paid for his booth. He did 3 tattoos that weekend on people that he wanted to chill with. And then he was there with his girlfriend at the time. I don't think they're together anymore, but it's either way. Like, he had a great fucking weekend. And I was like, I mean, and then at the end, I was like, so there's the money. He's like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It's all paid for because they paid for everything." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, that's the brilliant thing about being sponsored." And I was like, "Oh, I'll just pay it forward." And he's like, "That's exactly what you should do." And I was like, "Right." So
Wow.
yeah, like, and he was like, "Yeah, don't worry about money. Like, it's fine." So I was like, "All right, well, that's how you enjoy tattooing. You get good at it, and then you get to just do what you want, you know?"
Yeah. I mean, did you that guy, man? It's weird with John. Or Thanks. It's weird because you're like, I don't know. When I first ever, have you followed him from the start? Have you followed him from the start of his career to a certain
So
extent?
I was living on friends' sofas for a while, so I didn't have a phone for a few years. I didn't have Instagram, but like, yeah, when there was a magazine with him in it, I don't
Yeah.
follow him now. Weirdly enough, it just nothing personal to him. Just he's not someone I'm like. If I'm like, he's someone I go, I wonder what he's doing, and I just check in.
Yeah, well, he doesn't really do much. I don't really. It's weird. He doesn't really do much, and I don't really understand why. He's quite funny. This the way he does converse and speak to people on Facebook and things like that. But I think his Instagram, there's not much going on. He doesn't really. That's what I mean. What I'm trying to say, what I'm going around the houses to say is, it's really weird how consistent and prolific he was when he first started doing insane color portraits, amazing saturation, some really good large scale work. I remember he came over to my booth at Tattoo Jam in Doncaster, and he was walking around with the guy that he'd done this big skull on the front.
The
Every
skull. Yeah.
yeah, and I was just like, whoa, dude, and he was just talking to him for a little bit, and that's the only time I've ever spoken to him face to face. But back then, he was so prolific and so on top of everything. Now I think he just went through a period of like, I don't even know if I want a tattoo, and now I think he just does it every now and again.
I think that's what, like, when he was tattooing me, he was just doing it for fun. So like,
Yeah.
he was still sponsored. He was like, I'll do these. I'm only doing Terry's, these little fellas.
Yeah,
I got like a little Deadpool one. He was like, tell me about him. Like, I want to do. He's going to do like a little plant portrait, and I think for him, characterization was a lot more fun and like interaction. And like, without quoting Jay from In Betweeners, maybe he completed tattooing. He's like, completed it, mate. Like,
yeah,
he knows everyone. He's done everything, and he's like, completed it. Like,
yeah.
what else is there to do? Like,
Yeah, because
it
he
lets him buy a nice car when he wants one, and
yeah, he'll have a studio that will pull money, and then also because he went over to Jeff Gogway's studio, painted with Jeff. He's had tons of time with Jason Butcher and things like that. So he literally has ticked all the boxes that you would. I don't know. I think you can always get better, and there's always certain different things to do. But I mean, it must have in his head would be like, I'm kind of done a little bit with this, you know what I mean? But obviously it's a way to make money for him, and it's a way to actually enjoy it now. He's at a stage,
yeah, without the drill. Like
without the
something.
drill.
So I hung out with Amy Cornwell for a weekend in Italy once, and it was. I went depressed, and I think I left mega depressed, which is weird because Amy is the loveliest person, which is why she's so popular, and she's lovely, talented, and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, we were chatting, and I did a really good job of being like, "Oh, who are you?" Like,
Yeah.
But we were talking, and I was like, she was saying like, "This is what I want from my life," and I was like, "But you're where you and me, you and I would like to be." Do you mean? She gets to go, like, she can just guest spot with Victor Chill. She can pop over to Timmy B. She can literally just spend a weekend not even tattooing with the kind of people that you and me would pay to do it with.
Yes.
And she was like, yeah, and like, oh, well, she spent the weekend the year before painting with Philippe and Tintin.
What?
Yeah, like, so this is like the paintings. Andrea Paolacchini runs a painting weekend in a picturesque hotel on the outside of Italy, and Philippe and Tintin turned up, and they took a shining to Amy, and they all painted. It was amazing, apparently. And she was like, yeah, but you do that. And he was like, it doesn't make you happy. And I was like, oh, right, well, my life's a lie then. Like, it's such a truth. It just knocked me back. And I was like, maybe I'll literally never be happy then, And it took me a while to be like, it's okay to have goals. That's not, but look, it took me like a few years to reconcile that, like, making it doesn't mean you've completed it, But for her, like, and she's moved to Wales recently, and she's got a farm, and she's going to have, I assume, some kind of foraging, tattooing experience for her clients. And that, for her, that's her end goal, I guess. But I was like, work London, you've won.
Yeah, I think it's just the same thing with money, isn't it? Everybody's like, I need money for this, I need money for that. You start getting money, and you realize, or you hear stories of people that do get money, and they fall upon hundreds of thousands or millions, and they're still not happy. It's not. It definitely, you start to learn that it's not about that. Is it? You have to enjoy the things that you're actually doing, and it has to be for you. It has to be something that you truly are in love with. And I think I would say you are definitely truly in love with tattoo art and tattooing and the
All art, man.
all art.
It's
Yes,
my
yes, yeah.
mistress for sure. Like, if you
Yeah.
ask my girlfriend, she fucking hates art. Well, she loves it, but she's like, that bitch. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, man. So that's your happy place, and I think that will always be there. And again, until you can't do it again, just got to be mindful of keeping your head afloat and constantly striving for new things. I think, but then also you can set yourself up for a fall that way, can't you? Because you hear people that are in a depressed stage of their life, and they're like, I just need to set goals and I need to knock them down. I need to keep doing that. I'm just going to keep doing that. What happens when you run out of goals, or you can't think of a next part to get
Mm.
to? You know what I mean? Like what?
But so this is something that I've been not meditating on, but it's something that I think about a lot at the moment, because I took an apprentice last October, and I see a lot of people that take on apprentices and they teach them how to draw like they do, and then that person learns and then they peak. You know, you must know a bunch, like there's exceptions like Cura and all that lot, that just
Yeah.
these Michelle Madison, who just start at the top and just keep on rising, or just keep on progressing at least. But a lot of people will just reach a point. And I've been thinking about why I don't get bored with art. And I talked a lot at Kiri, my apprentice, about it's about growth and then consolidation. So you can set up a frame and this plant grows up the frame, but it doesn't matter if it keeps on growing. Eventually it'll get too heavy for itself and it'll tear itself down.
Yeah.
As if it stops growing for a bit and its trunk gets thicker, or its leaves get bigger. Then it has a frame of itself that's like, oh, I'm going to go in this direction. I didn't think that's not where the frame was going, but that's the strongest. That's where it's leading me. Like, I think that's so important, is to not expect where you're going to go, but you can't always go forwards. There needs to be a point where you meditate on it. Like, if you're talking about like artists, I think you see it with Marcus a lot, where like Turbulence is just what he started. He messaged when I was a couple of months away from getting tattooed by him. He was like, I want to do Turbulence. I was like, I'm in.
Do what you want.
And yeah, exactly. And like, it was like, he thought it was gonna be like it was gonna be hard, and then he's done it. But you also see it with people like Miss Becker, or
Yeah.
Becker, where she will develop a shape. Like, her new thing at the moment seems to be these leafy, ornamental, very inspired by Lars Uwe and that lot. But she'll take that to completion. And then it'll be the next shape. So she can wrap that theme around, and she can until she's bored of it, and then there'll be the next one. So she's not always having to push to like completely reinvent herself. She's got the new thing until it's done, and then it's the next thing. And that way you're not always running. You know,
Yeah.
you get to kind of, you catch. There's a thing. Sorry, I feel like I've been talking a while.
Mate, I love it. Keep going. I love it.
There's a thing that like army do. I think it's called black marching.
Okay.
I saw it on Blue Peter so long ago, but I do think about it every so often. That like it's quicker. They can cover a lot more distance by not sprinting, not running, not walking. They'll just sprint when they can, jog when they can, walk, and they're still moving forwards.
Yeah.
But they recuperate while they're walking, and then they run. You know, it takes practice. Like, you can't just, like, you and me, you could because you exercise, but I don't.
I probably still couldn't, but I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
So there's not just like going forwards. There's a pace to it, you know, and like.
Yeah. I think what I would say at that point as well is, yeah, I can completely understand. It's almost like an analogy what you're using there to a certain degree. You know, like you want to always move forward, and I think in life, because there's so much pressure now in succeeding, I think even in yourself, social media can create an anxiety to succeed or to actually push forward constantly, because if you're not pushing forward,
or to not, which is the worst,
or to not, yeah. So when you don't and you stop, or you seem to hit a stumbling block, or you could a creative block, and you just don't seem to feel like you're moving forward. But whilst you're looking around you, you know, I might be thinking, oh, fuck, I just can't seem to get my head around certain things. And then Josh might put some up and I might be like, oh, look, Josh is killing it, man. Fucking hell. And then 2 months later, it might be the complete role reverse. And you're like,
Yeah.
shit, Lee just did that thing. Why didn't I
Yeah.
think? Oh man, yeah. So everybody moves at different stages. It's from the day you're born. Everybody. You know, I had 2 children, one girl, one boy, and they are both completely different. They are both learning at completely different paces. It's just.
That must be so hard with your kids though, where you're like, he was doing this by this time, and she's like,
Yeah.
like when you're so personally invested, you're like, but you really need to, otherwise you're behind. But then it's that you've got to pull yourself back a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. When you first started tattooing, is the style that you tattoo now the style that
not even slightly?
No,
like,
really?
Straight out, no. Like, so Instagram's a lie. Like, everyone agrees this, right? Like, Instagram's a lie. So I'm really bad at posting because sometimes I've got something I like to post, but I don't want to be on Instagram for 5 minutes. I want to be I don't like hashtagging. If you don't hashtag, then it reduces, and then the people that would normally see a post don't see it next time. So there's this like addiction aspect that is horrific, and like the fact that we're all accepting that that's just how it works is somewhat scary. But
yeah, for sure.
My dad's really bad for like saving my drawings. So he always grabbed them out of the bin and stuff. Like I used to throw away a lot. But one of my friends has got a couple of my old sketchbooks, and it was all neo-trad. It was like new school and like minimum black, like always color. I fucking love color.
Amazing.
Like most of my tattoos are color, besides the ones that everyone can see, weirdly enough. But yeah, so they're all color, and I love that style so much. I've got a piece by Tom Strom, and I want to collect more. When I got tattooed by Marcus, I wanted color because he did amazing colors.
Yeah.
Got tattooed by Aaron Burton, he's at Cosmic in Colchester back when it was like my first one, because he did an amazing color sleeve. And I was like, I've never seen anything like that. And I was like, that's what I want to know how to do. And didn't know enough to absorb it at the time. But yeah, so not at all, which is weird. But I don't think that's a bad thing, right?
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think you know, I asked that because it didn't happen for me. You know, I think when I first started tattooing, I was super into Japanese work. I would be drawing koi fish all the time. I would try to learn how to make water move on paper and all this kind of stuff. And I look back at all that now, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. But
when I first saw you, you were doing these amazing purple pencil sketches, all in new school, like
new school stuff. Yeah,
I mean, like neo-tradish. You know, Crispy Lennox was like getting quite famous at the time, so everything was kind of looking a bit like his. At the time.
I got, even when I think back to that, I actually went on a bit of a. I don't know how I ended up back looking at all that kind of stuff. I even look at it now and you're like, oh God, you know, because it's so weird. And that's another thing, Josh. That's how scary social media is. I think it's scary to be, and I talked about this with Marcus on the podcast I did with him, how easily it is to be influenced by things that you see. Now, that can be nature and everything like that, but when you're looking at other people's work that is tattoo art, not like a Renaissance painting or something or this or that, never. When it's tattoo art, trying to stop your own brain from thinking, or when your customer comes in, they're like, I want a lion with a clock running through it and some kind of cathedral, to not think, oh, Josh did something like that, didn't he?
And it does. And like, to be honest, there's a really horrific thing where like there's 2 instances of this. So there's 2 things that I'm very aware of, but it doesn't stop me doing it. It's just I notice it and I'm like, well, shit happens. But
yeah.
So you do something and it looks like someone else's, and you go, so I've been doing it right. You know, you're like, you're not intending it, and you go, oh, it looks like a Mumia piece, and you're like, well, that's good because people like his work.
Yeah.
Or there's another thing which is, I think, a lot more distressing. Have you ever heard of false positives?
I think so. Yeah.
It's like, so they had it in World War II, where planes would come back and they'd have a bunch of bullet holes in their wings. They'd be like, right, we need to fucking put some plating on these fucking wings. But the planes that didn't come back got shot in the engine.
Oh, right.
So you like, it's like you get this information, you think it's good, like you'll get a bunch of likes, but they're not necessarily the likes of like people being like, oh, I need to book that. That might just be mums that go, well, I don't like tattoos, but that's all right, you know.
Yeah.
So that's like a really dangerous thing that people don't consider so much on like social media, is like the it's not just going to clients, it's going to people that aren't clients. And they're more likely to like I know some people I know that use Instagram don't like photos.
Yeah.
They're the worst people in the world, but like,
Yeah.
so it's to get your feedback from such an unreliable source is a really dangerous system.
Which is why, again, I'll bring him back into my tattoo series of podcasts. Guy Aitchison is incredible, because what Guy Aitchison does is he will critique people, and he will bring other people in to critique pieces of work, and I think that critique is the key to becoming better as an artist. And if you've got that ego that's ready to accept that thing that you rendered and was like, yes, finished, and that person's like, really? Well, I think you went a bit too dark there, a bit too light there, and I wouldn't have put that there. I would have put that there. But I mean, hey, that's just my opinion. But that person that said that is somebody you value way above you. You know what I mean?
I sent photos this week to them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
I didn't check whether they got in, annoyingly. I checked this morning, couldn't get on. But yeah, because I was like, this is what I'm working on. Tear it apart. Like, my clients aren't going to see it, so I'm not worried about them taking it personally. I'm like, I've made mistakes. But like, I was like, this is what I'm doing now. Being a little bit like confident. And as far as I'm aware, I'm like, that's not where my happy, well, it's my happy place, which is unhealthy. But like, it's not good for art, you know? Like, if they go, it's great, I'm like, cheers, but that's really not what I was looking for. And I'll go somewhere else, and I'll be like, I'll ask a Japanese artist or something.
Yeah, I think you're right there. You kind of want them to find something, don't you? You know, like when I remember years ago, I sent something to Guy, and he critiqued something on his website. It was doing a critique section on.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and he critiqued it, and I was just like, wow, yeah, you're right. You know, like this is, and I learned shit, man. And that was like, right. And I'm ready for that again. I think you've just inspired me to actually I think, when are they doing that though? Kaya and Marcus, are they doing that?
I think it was like last night.
They did it last night.
I have no scale of what time is anymore. So
no.
I went from like the nether zone to like the clock's running, but it's lost. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle, and it doesn't matter.
It's hard, man. Just for me as well. Like I say, it's hard getting back to being busy. Gabe came forward and asked, and Guy came forward. He messaged me, the guy, and he was like, "Look, listen, your podcast. I want you to come on and talk on the tattoo gathering. But in a sense of what he was saying is, I want you to be in the bar area, the virtual bar area, to keep conversations going." I was like, yeah, man, I'm fucking down. Can I find time to do it? That locks in the times that they do it because of 2 fucking kids.
Yeah, man. I wake up at 2 and like I wake my son up, and he'll have a bad day at school, but like he's only alive for like the rest of my fuck him. He hasn't been in a studio for 20 years.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll find time, and I really, really want to go over to the States and do like Paradise Tattoo Gathering, and
I think that's the mecca at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, because I hope that me and you will eventually go. That would be really cool.
That's like my thing of like with my apprentice at the moment, I'm like, we need a bigger world. Like, if you like, so a couple of points, right? I don't draw black and gray, and weirdly enough, I don't like black and gray tattoos so much. Like, I follow maybe Carlos Torres because he's an amazing artist, full stop. There's no changing that. I follow Ralph Nonviola because, as detail goes, it's innovative. But I can't think off the top of my head of any other black. I know I do follow other black and grey artists, but I don't. I draw Japanese. If you put a piece of paper in front of me, I draw Japanese because why not? It's so much better than everything else.
Yeah.
But with my apprentice, like, it's easy to be the best artist in your town, but that's not okay. Like, if you live in a small town, well done. But like, if you live in a big town, there's a bigger town next to you and there's a bigger country, and like, what's your excuse? Like, where do you stop? And obviously it's a very unhealthy obsession to, like, you'll never be the best, but it's nice that we live in a world where there's accountability now.
Yes. Yes.
Like, that's when I first got Instagram after like a couple of years of tattooing, I was like, oh, like this I am not where I thought I was in this. And even still, like, you'll come across artists that have more followers than me, but not a lot, and I'll be like, man, this guy's fucking insane. Like, and just all the time. And I'm like, why isn't this person famous? Like, I would get tattooed by this guy tomorrow. And like, that's lovely though. Like,
Yeah, I think, man, I think that's one of the biggest things as well, isn't it? You know, you can be on your own journey and you can have I don't know, 50 plus people on your books who are collecting work from you or whatever, and they can think you are like incredible, but it's just because they're near you or whatever. But then when you look around you and you look at what's going on in Ukraine or what's going on in Sweden and places like that, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't get my head around how they're choosing to. What's different in their approach and my approach? What's different in the way that they will render something? I had this conversation with Driss Donnelly.
yeah, I saw a bit of this,
Yeah,
and I loved it. I got a like from Dimitri Samoan the other day.
Wow.
It was like,
yes, Burrow.
yeah, I was like, all right, well, I can sleep tonight. Like, done. Yeah, that was. But do you ever watch Portrait Artist of the Year or like Landscape Artist of the Year?
No, I didn't. What do you mean?
Just horrific. Don't. It's like watching posh people smell their own farts. It's horrific. But there'll be some guy who's painting a perfectly realistic landscape, and then there'll be some kid tearing up sandpaper and like wiping it on his face and using sweat to stick it to like stick it. It's horrific. And they'll go, well, they're both even. And you're like,
are they?
But I've seen them where they go, look, that's purple, but like, what happens if it was bright purple? And I'm like, and then they do it, and I go, yeah, that's better. Like, when you look at Dimitri, he's got really bright purples, he's got really neon blues. Like, his color range isn't muted. It's like, and I don't know that the world's moved that way because there's this idea of like sophistication with muted colors, which is lovely, but like Dimitri's work just pops because he's using the full range. He doesn't need to use pale colors, and it just pops off the skin. Like,
again,
what say to that?
He's a great person to use it as an example to someone when you were like, I follow Carlos Torres, and you were talking about black and gray artists, and then you get somebody like Dimitri Samuin who does black and gray, and you're like, what the fuck? What? You know what I mean? They have a knack of using like grey wash and actual opaque grey or something like that, and do a mixture that when it fully heals, you're like, that looks way different to my black and grey, and you realize, they're using opaque grey. They're using
both ranges.
Yeah, both ranges, and it works together and all this kind of stuff, and it makes their black and grey set out different from others. Mate, there's so many people on this planet that absolutely blow my mind, and it's so easy to get completely overwhelmed by them. Victor Chill, you mentioned him before. All these people that are absolutely killing it, and even people that are just stick to one style, like Jamie Riss and people like that. You know, like it's hard to get your head around it sometimes, and I literally sometimes have to put my phone down and just concentrate on what I can do and what I'm doing, but still get drawn into it, man. Still get drawn into it, you know?
Well, like, I forget that, like, Instagram, if you tag someone in, I tag my apprentice in, like, all this stuff all the time, being like, look, there's this person that's amazing at this, doing this other style, no excuses. And I forget that person can read it. So it sounds a bit like you're kissing their ass, you know? Like, I do it all the time, where, like, we were talking on Victor Chill's, like, multiple comments. I'm like, this guy just kills everything he does because he knows his shit. And like, if you say, I want to do a traditional tattoo, if his client has like a full body suit and he needs traditional here, you know that Victor's going to kill it because he knows what works and he's got that ratio and it's still going to look like a Victor piece. And and then he liked a bunch of the comments and I was like, oh, this is horrible. Like,
watching me.
Sorry.
I think I remember seeing a piece that he did. And I love seeing this kind of thing from versatile people, is like he had this like bulldog, traditional, incredible, just brilliant traditional tattoo that he'd done on the center of this guy's sternum, and then right next to it on his stomach, to the right side of his stomach, was this color portrait of this person's wife or mother or something. It was like, look at that, look at that. That guy has flexed two different kinds of muscles there. He's been like, I can do this, which most traditional artists will be like, that's sick. And then he's done this that most like color realism artists will be like, that's sick. And the best thing about Victor is he'll do something again, because the color realism side of things, or even the black and gray realism side of things, went through a period of time where people were like, that will not hold and it will not heal properly. But then people actually did work in that part of the genre of tattoo, in that style of genre of tattooing, and was like, right, how can I make this hold? You know what I mean? And how is this sustainable as a tattoo? And they figured it out, man, because you see some of the heel tattoos that Dimitri Samuin did years ago, or like Victor Chill did like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And you're like, yeah, man, it's still there, still solid.
Yeah.
I'd wear that shit, you know?
Exactly. And I think, like, as you know, from like being a little bit further on, you can see when someone skips some steps.
Yeah.
Like, and it's annoying, like, and that's when you become a hater, where you're like, you're cheating, man. Like, you've got loads of likes, but like, we know you haven't edged that stuff in, or like, hey man, that contrast, that needs to be, if you've got a white next to it, you just slightly darker tone, even if you've got a light grey square, that edge should be dark grey, man. Like,
yeah.
But you get people that are not doing that, and you go, cheating. But that's where you just
yeah. It's really weird. It's really weird time as well. I will ask you other questions, but we're on a really good roll here, and I like what we're talking about. But I saw something today, and I am not mentioning the artist. I'm just not going there because it's not right. But I saw something that somebody posted today, and I was like, there is, and I'll send it you after. There is not a fucking chance that the tattoo you have just done, the white that you have used, exists anywhere. There is no machine that can pack white.
There are 3 artists that I'm like, no. Like,
no.
You get all these commenting people being like, what ink do you use? And you want to be Photoshop white. That's what you want to say. It's like, oh yeah, man, I'll send it to you. It's a PDF. Like, it's a Photoshop white, man. Like,
and it's so sad, man, because I mean, if you are looking for this kind of like exposure, that they're the ones that will get spread around all the necessary places that will pull you followers in. But if you're not bothered about that, it doesn't matter. But you know, like, they're the ones that are like, look at that, and it's this unobtainable thing that can never happen. You know, I'll send it you after, but that seems to be a thing that's happening now. That's kind of depressing, and that quiet. I admire people like yourself, and I will do it. You know, just put unedited things up how it is, and if you get healed work, show people how it is, because that's a real test of how you choose to. Because I always think when I'm trying to render something, when I put these tones in, they're going to heal. And what is it going to heal like? You've got.
That's like, I don't upload a lot of fresh work because my work looks like solid black. I got, they photographed, I was at a convention in Italy 3 years ago, and they photographed a back I did, because it was on this 5'2", basically albino girl.
Yeah.
And she's pretty, and it's on a woman, and she's got milky white skin, so the blackest you'll ever see. But I shaded in this little corner like this in the top corner, and they took the photo, and this whole thing was black. And I'm like, there's 2 people dancing on stairs in this, but it's like, you can't see it. I'm like, so I have to say to my clients, like, oh, if you like that photo, I'll show you what it looks like when it's healed. Yeah. But yeah, they turned the saturation. I was like, but there's 5 different grey tones and some skin tone in there.
Which is ridiculous as well, man, because I know exactly which piece you're talking about. And the best part about that tattoo, apart from obviously all the intricacies and how you've rendered a lot of it, is the fact that
there's no skin tone in that whole area. It's black,
man. But in the front bit is. So
there's barely any black in the foreground. But like, and you see it on like Ink Master, and like, I love Ink Master, and I should fucking hate it. But I'm like, oh, tell him a new one, Chris. It's horrific. But they're always like, let it breathe. And I'm like, not all of it. Like, there shouldn't be skin gaps in everything. Some of it should be like unreadable, you know? And they're like, that dark grey looks like a black. And I'm like, it should. Otherwise, in 2 months, it's going to look like a light grey. Like,
yeah, man.
That's one of those horrible moments where you're like, oh, just please leave us alone.
And another time when Marcus taught me something like that was details in the darkness, and that's where it probably, that's where some of the intricacies come, and where you see the finer parts of things. You don't be scared to hide details in the darkness, you know, like, because when a tattoo ages, I think Xiao Bosco, he did my hand. I remember we did the hand and he chose to render it really dark, and I didn't even notice it at the time. But when I came down to go and get a session on my chest in London, he's like, "Hey man, let's have a look at your hand, man." Oh, I see, man. I told you he'll really good, man. I told so many people tell me it was too dark, man. You know, and I'm like, oh, he's like, yeah. So many people said that when he did it, it was too dark. But as a black and gray artist, you start to learn that if you go too light, it looks so wishy-washy, man.
You get your blacks and then just one tone of gray, pretty much through the whole thing, which is like where I think. When I do a black and grey tattoo that comes back to me, I go, I'd have that. I'm like, I don't even really love black and grey tattoos that much. I'm like, yeah, man, that's the kind of scout. I want to sell it to people that don't like black and grey.
Yeah.
Which we're like, still not even fucking close. But you look at people like Kasserink, who his contrast is like, he'll do only skin tone, like light grey upwards and then light grey downwards. And that will be his two objects for that tag. And I'm like, that's the kind of contrast that like reads from across a room, you know. He's got tribal patterns in his realistic-ish. It's lovely. Like I could enjoy stare at that stuff all day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, again, I think that's really cool as well to admire artists. I really like. I can't see. I would never do work like it. It's just not me. But at the moment, I just can't see crushing on Hanumantra, and he's been around for a long time, for quite a while. But just recently, I'm just like, there's just something about it that I'm like, I've got
it's
this
satisfying.
Yeah,
I did a bunch of frog paintings inspired by his tattoos because I was like, I just wanted to see what they felt like, you know. And I was like, that looks like it would be on a poison dart frog. I'm painting a poison dart, you know, like.
That's
it looked really cool. And I was like, yeah, that's I've considered, like, when I was looking at covering up the sleeve, he was one of the people that I was like, and like people were like, you don't like tribal? I'm like, I don't. And but I like his because he's sold it beyond the Ken.
Yeah, but you look at Victor Chill as well. He's the same thing. Like he's that kind of artist. But then you look at what he's wearing, and he's walking around with tribal tattoos. You know what I mean? It's like it looks good because you know what, and it's the reason you're wearing that tattoo on your left arm. I think is because it's tattoo art. It's like for some reason tattoo art. There you go. I love the color scheme on that one as well, man.
Pink. Only the best men wear pink.
Yeah. It's the idea of you suddenly, it's not something I would do, but you start getting drawn to like this tattoo art side of things. In my mind, I'm not the biggest traditional collector. I don't want to collect this and collect that, and I did in the past. But then as I started getting older and evolving in my tattoo art myself, I just seem to admire people like, you know, Bint and, Hanumantra and then bio artists that could really knock it out of the park, because Marcus had we crush on Marcus, don't we, a lot, but for very good reason, because like,
but like sometimes I think I hate him, like, and
yeah,
which is weird, like not. Sometimes I still look at his work. Sometimes some days I do look at his work and I'm like, honestly, I don't know if I like it, like, because he's really into his alien stuff. And he wants it to look like an exoskeleton. And like, some days I don't recognize that I've got it on my arm, but I'm like, it's a bit gross, you know? Yeah. And like, I think that's just like, I've got a piece and I love his work, but I don't love it every day.
Yeah, I mean, but that's cool though, isn't it? You know what I mean? I think that's a good thing. Even Marcus though gets bored of doing that kind of thing and then decides to just do black work and you know, try and do something with that as well. The versatility of, because he did a collaboration with oh man, his name's escaping me. He's a calligraphy artist. Gordy Letters or something like that. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing where, you know, it's a different, and I can remember speaking to him about that and him being like, yeah, there's something about that just set off my inspiration. And I don't know if it's just something to do with tattoo art, you know, that's why you did paint.
I think he's got this, I think it looks like it says Slayer, but apparently it doesn't on the side of his head. And he was looking for someone to cover it up at one point. And like, this was that guy that he kept on like getting dragged back to. So there was something there. I think something that's really interesting though, about like, if you're going to crush on a guy, like Marcus, when you talk to him, he's like, yeah, I used to open, when you talk about critiques, he was saying like, I used to go onto the like famously brutal grime forum where, and he'd be like, roast me. And they would like, grime is notoriously brutal. Like, no, not even like, he doesn't compliment sandwich it. He's like, no. And then starts his list. But yeah, if you can convince people that don't like biomech that they might like, but like grime was, or like at the time he was saying it was really bold, and so all his work had like heavy black lines and stuff. And so Marcus's aim was to convince these people that they like biomech, and now he's Marcus Lenhard or whatever, however you want to pronounce his name. But that was his aim, and now you see where he is.
Again, with getting critique, you know, it seems to be the key to some kind of, I don't know, level up or something. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, what's your I mean, one of the best things about you as well is that you have a selection of mediums to work in. What's your favorite medium to work in?
Oil. I can do a draw. I can do a painting now that would take me 2 weeks to draw or to sketch. I can push and pull it out of, like, not in an arrogance way. I just
No.
Transparency pushes things back. Opaque brings it forward. I can do that. When I'm on the iPad, I'm like dark, light, leave the midtones. I'm like, that's pretty much what I want. And I don't need to fill in the rest because I'm like, I've pulled everything forward that I like, pushed everything back that I want deep. You can do that with oils. Like, that was the point during this lockdown, was like, get it smooth, get it, test that though. Like, I went through a stage where I ran out of paints and I did pinks because I think pinks are funny, and it's like, it's really girly and it's so stupid, and I love it, like, because it's so stupid. So yeah, like, any way to waste my own time I think is really funny. But yeah, like, that was just, I'm so much quicker with a paintbrush than I would, even if like, I've got a room now, like, when we moved house, my girlfriend was buying a house, and I was like, I just want one room where I don't have to walk in, set up, I don't have to worry about someone popping in. But before, you know, when I was living at my mum's house, I'd pull down the bureau, I'd get everything out, and then I'd paint, you know, and that was part of my meditation, same way as you would set up with a machine. But I painted on an iPad during the lockdown, and it was so slow. It's not the same. Like, it's all wrist movements. With what I really love about, like, painting is, like, there's so much control or lack of control. So, like, I saw someone once said, the further back you hold a paintbrush, the more you can do, and the better you are. And I was like, obviously, just the next day was like holding it like with tweezers on the end of a paintbrush, and I was like, fuck you, like, really came out shit. But then I started, like, realizing, like, when I'm doing my loose backgrounds and I'm doing my ala prima, like, just doing the marks, I will hold it really far back, because the potential of a stroke when you're holding it right near the tip, like, if you're holding it, the potential is this big, you know, that's how much you can move it with your wrist. As if you're holding it right back, the potential's this big. And so seemingly random movements that aren't, because you can't be random as a human being. You've got to be like left, doing that too much, down. Like, you're automatically predicting a pattern. If you hold it here, it gets, the potential of it looks a lot more spontaneous. And that's one of those lessons, like, came from a phrasing, but the more you do it, you realize, and then by the end I'm like really up close and I'm on the painting. But
yeah, I love that. I really do love that. I like that though, like, what you say there. It's weird, isn't it, with backgrounds? You know, I remember listening to Jeff talk about that, the idea of, he said he likes showing in a non-arrogant kind of way when Jeff talked, but he said, I like being able to show off, you know, there'll be a large portion of the painting that will be unrendered and loosey-goosey, and then I will show you just what I can do in one part, and it'll be enough to be like, fuck, that's just insane. You know what I mean?
It's like, seeing his work in person was another Amy Cornwell moment for me. Like, he was the reason I started painting. I loved him, and I've seen a bunch of his work in person. Anytime, if you were like, there's 1-2 miles away, I'd run there now. But I saw it in person and was like, he doesn't have the same deliverance for me that, like, Mickey Violetto, I think he put on, it was called Time, he put on a gallery just before London, a while back on the river.
Yeah.
Really funny. It was in the same building that London Fashion Week was, and my friend smokes. So we went to see this thing, and then he went to smoke in the courtyard, and then we were in London Fashion Week, and we were like leaning up against railings, and people were taking photos of us, and we were like, no, we're just tattooed. We're not with the fashion. But yeah, so I went to see that, and there was a guy, it's an original, he was doing that time, he had that exploding cogwork piece.
Right,
mind-blowing when you see it on a screen. Quite small in person, which was surprising, to be honest. When you think about that work and how the amount of energy it has, you assume that it's going to be like taking over your face, but it was... But I saw Jeff's, and I know he ran out of time, and he was trying to delayer it as he closed into his detail, and I don't think he quite achieved it. But I've seen a bunch of his, and like Marcus has got one of his, the one that's almost got like this alien drip that's got like the nose, and it's almost like a green wash, couple of strokes of yellow and a white, and it's appealing, but up close it's not as rewarding as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
And like, I saw a David Cassan piece, Paint Guide, and that's a photo as far as you're aware from afar, and you get up close and you're like, Jesus, this is like, it's like Braille. You could be like, this is a woman's nose. There's all the pores, and they're not painted in. It's just, it's impasto brush stroking layered on top of each other. And I was like, before that, I wasn't a huge fan of his because I was like, let's just photo recreation, just do little grids and just work.
Yeah, each grid.
But that's not how he works. And the reward for that was really weird. And it completely changed how I painted because of that. Like, got up close and was like, yeah, it's nice, but like it's no different.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Though how as everybody how different people consume art. Oh, it's fucking so strange. I love it, and I think that you're very similar to me. Sometimes you can be so underwhelmed by something that you want to be overwhelmed about. You know, like you want to be. I remember again. I do. I don't want to sound really bad here, but I'm, you know, it's just honesty, isn't it? I do love Jeff's work.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I did love it more before. Now, as I've gotten older, I'm not like, oh, you know, he's not someone who I go to and be like, who's your favorite, who you inspired by at the moment, or he's not someone. I don't know. I kind of fell out of love with the way he would do Japanese. And that's really bad because he's fucking incredible.
No, he's insane, but he does Jeff's Jap, and you don't have to like it because he was doing Jeff's realism. He was doing Jeff's bioorganic, and
yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of the organic. He had his peak time, but I think he gets credit, and he will always, for innovating. I think he was one of the first artists that really along with Nick and Nick Baxter and all that, Guy, that really was like, look, it's not just about your tattooing. Like it's a lifestyle. But to be fair to him, from everything I've ever heard, it sounds like he was sacrificing family. Yeah. And you couldn't be like, well, man, you know, the world that you don't know thinks that you should try harder or you should put more time. So I think what he does works for Jeff, which you can't excuse, or you can excuse even.
Yeah, it's again that work-life balance. You know what I mean? The pressure again of being an artist, and you see so many people going through that as well. You see people's struggles with wanting to get to a certain place and expecting to be at a certain place, but being gaining anxiety about the fact that they're not there yet or something like that. I don't know. You've got to remember as well that life is so busy just in general anyway at the moment, you know. So what if you're not this or you're not there or you're not that, you know what I mean?
During this, how did you've got 2 kids, so at one point you had 6 free hours, and then you had 2 free hours, and then you had a second kid and you've got 1 hour, and then you kind of chisel out some time that you're like, maybe I can steal half an hour. How are you with this? You've still been doing paintings and stuff. Where does that?
So that, man, is just me. Probably no, I don't even know. I was going to say being selfish. No, not me being selfish.
You can say I paint during lockdown. I didn't get a lot done, but I got what I did done because I was like, I need me time every day.
Yeah, and I will do it in front of the kids, man. I will literally just be because if the kids go to bed at 8:30 eventually, my oldest will go to bed at 8:30. and I generally lockdown. I used to go to bed about 10:30, and then lockdown came in, and it would be like 12 o'clock. And I'm trying to pull that back, but it keeps being 12 o'clock.
Oh,
I know, and it's like, ugh,
it's dangerous.
very dangerous, man. So I've got to try and pull it back and capitalize on getting sleep and being up at like 6 or half 6. But it left me a little gap to create in. But then I started becoming more like, I can't, because people are commissioning me to do these paintings like they are you, and they've already paid me for them. So I'm going to create. I need to create this now. I know I've got to do this. So I've got to do this in front of the kids. So like when I play bass or something, I'm just going to do it in front of the kids, because I live on my own. I'm single. Like I'm going to show them that there's more to watching YouTube or playing on your tablet. You know what I mean? Because I didn't grow up in a generation. Although I had PlayStation through my generation, I'm not a big gamer, so I would find other ways to be creative, and I was always someone who was look for hobbies to do. Although I feel like I've gained too many hobbies, Josh. Like I feel like there's just too many. You know?
I literally have to limit myself. Like we did, I went on a stag do and I did a bit of skydiving and was like, that's fucking sick. But then my boss was like, yeah, you can do that. Like it's only an hour drive and you spend the morning there and you might get to skydive and it's an hour drive. And I was like, I don't have that time, you know, like
Yeah.
it's either tattooing time or that's like time with my girlfriend, which to be honest is always at the bottom of the list because she's really understanding. Well, she's not, but she puts up with it.
Yeah.
And then it's like painting. And I was just like, even with during lockdown, I started playing games. I bought a game because I was like 3 weeks, got a lot of time to kill. I'll buy a game, play it. I got halfway through and was like, this is just literally wasting time. Time that I'm like, I've got things like, I'm sure everyone was like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to come out prison fit, I'm going to get everything done, I'm going to be able to speak 2 languages, I'm going to be able to play a new instrument. And like, and then I was like, oh, well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, too late to start painting. So I was like, as soon as that, I was like, throw that away, stop doing it. It's not rewarding. Like there was no satisfaction once I'd finished it. Like it was enjoyable to play, but it's just like watching telly, you know?
Yeah. I think that was.
And you have that. You're amazing at bass. And I used to play bass, but I never put the time in to like enjoy it the way that you get to enjoy it. You know, you can play Lion King in multiple styles. Like you can drag out the notes and I think, man, I'd love to do a sexy version of the Lion King. Can't, but like I'm sure you could make it sexy. Like that sounds like fun.
Yeah, that again that was like been playing bass for way longer than I've been tattooing, so it's just one of the things that you drag through again. But it's been the bass has definitely taken a back seat, you know, because of situations where I know that I want to be. Gosh, if I could choose the option, I really want to be a better artist than I do actually a bass player.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, I think like when people were like, "Why are you painting so much?" I was like, "The second name of my job is artist." Like, so if I get better at that, I'm doing my job when I'm not getting paid for it, but it will pay me back. Like my favorite thing about tattooing, one, it's on 3D canvas and that doesn't exist on any other medium. It's a moving, and I think that's so cool. And that's why painting for me cannot substitute tattooing as much as I love painting. But also it's like, how do you say it? It's just visceral. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, I'm trying to think of the words. Having trouble articulating, but you know, it's
for me, it's definitely like the, I don't think a lot of people do see it like this, but I definitely think the people that are really good artists do see it like this. We're definitely given the chance to have one of the best jobs in the world. And I don't mean like, you could be a porn star and having sex all the time or whatever and all this kind of stuff, or,
tell me a porn star who loves filming porn. Like that's like, I guarantee that when they go home and they have sex with their missus, they're not swapping positions every 20 minutes, you know, because they're like, you know, like it's 10:30, you know, and like, let's, are you done? I'm done. Right. Let's
okay, I'm going to sleep. Yeah.
And I really don't want to have to clean up after this one.
Yeah.
Like, I think thinking back to why I love it, you get in exactly what you put in, or you get out exactly what you put into tattooing. And I love that. Like there's no one else I know in their job. You can be a best bar manager in the world, but you're still serving drunk people. to
Yeah.
a certain degree. You might have a bit of rapport, but you work really hard at tattoo and you work really hard at art. You put in 2 hours of overtime. That's 2 hours of overtime that pays off in your in time.
Yeah.
And like you're amazing to people and you're friendly and you get to know your clients. You get to know them even better, or you get to know their friends, and they become, and that's, I can't think of another industry that pays you back that way.
Yeah. Very, very beautifully put. Unbelievable. Like I've gained, I'd say, one of my closest friends, you know, through tattooing, and I don't think he would have entered my life like if he hadn't. If like I lost my dad over 10 years ago, and I don't think if I would have tattooed this guy, he would have been in my life. So to have him there and have him to be someone who, in my own mind, I think I lean on as a bit of a father figure. And if I'm going through something or something like that, and I go on a hike with him and I'm talking to him, I just kind of put all my keys and everything out of my pocket on the table and just be like, "This is what's going on, man. What do you think about it?" And there's been so many times where he's told me to, like, have you ever heard of the chimp paradox? Like your monkey brain, you always think that, that you can sometimes think like a monkey and you always scream and shout before you should do. And he's been so many times, he's stopped me from actually reacting to something. And now I have a barrier that he's put up in place without me even, I won't even think about it now. And I don't really get road rage anymore. When I was in a car before, I was like, "For fucking blah, 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 blah."
Yeah,
But
I'm
now
really
I'm
bad
like,
for that.
whatever, man,
But do you, so like, I don't want to get too hippie on this because you lose, as soon as you say hippie, people fucking hate it. But
The
like,
woo.
and I believe in like karma as a scientific force. So like, if the days you tattooed him, if you were like, yeah, turn up, do the tattoo, bad mood, or not bad mood, but just you weren't willing to give and take a little bit, like, then he wouldn't be a friend. He'd be someone you tattoo, and then you wouldn't have that. And like, it's so weird. Like, I'm sure I've had clients that would have would have been friends for life, and because I've made bad decisions, or just they haven't ended up being those people. But like, for that guy, you're saying, I chatted to him, we're friends, we agree on this, and like every time he turns up, or you get to hang out with that guy because you were putting into tattooing good positivity.
Yeah.
And like I really try and pull back on like the positive vibes, man, like, because it's horrific, but it's not horrific, it's lovely, but it's the wrong phrasing. It is just you find it, like, when I'm saying time served doesn't mean time owed. Like, if you stop caring when you've been tattooing for 20 years, your clients don't care about you. Like, no matter how much, like, you won't keep on making friends, and like, it doesn't matter you've done 20 years of good tattooing. That's kind of seems to be, from what I've observed, the end of your career until you want to start trying again. And then people will be like, well, maybe the tattoo's not up to modern standards, but he's a lovely guy, or
Yeah, dude, like with everything though, how much better is it when you speak to somebody who is bright, shiny, easy to talk to, interested, is good at conversation, and somebody is interested in what you've got to say and has something interesting to say. I don't honestly think what you were saying is something that you should pull back, because I think what you were saying there, and I just let you talk. I get it, man. Some people, when you start talking about the woo-woo or the spiritual side of things, it can definitely make people switch off,
yeah.
But I definitely do believe that sometimes, and I am very scientific, I definitely place a lot of my thoughts and, like actual factual.
Cause and effect is like a logical thing. That's fine, like 100%. But I think you can equate it to to human emotions, or to what you, because human emotions hasn't, for some reason, we don't quantify that, but it's so easily quantifiable. I mean, you can look at a crowd and be like, they're going to riot soon, like, and people do, but somehow they go, that's not science, that's just mood reading, and you're like, but and you can be like, this crowd's lovely.
Yeah, you learn how to read humans, don't you? As a human being, you learn how to read a human, and
exactly,
and the energy from a human, and it's undeniable. It's so weird. Like, I don't know you yet. From the moment I started speaking to you crackly before I eventually got a clearer version of you, I already knew I was going to be able to talk to you and
Yeah.
and have a good conversation. And then
You can get that from messages though, you know,
yes,
like, and I'm really bad. Like I'm an essay sender and like,
yeah,
I
me
try
too.
not to, I have to like peel it back. But like, if someone's like, yeah, okay, I'm like, I think I can still get a bit from that. But sometimes it's a bit of like if someone wants to say stuff, I'm like, what are they saying? And there's a bit more to it. That's why I want to say more, because I'm like, there's always a subcontext that's like more apparent about how you say something than what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, man, I do think it's right. I have to keep remembering that I should be asking you questions, and I'm just enjoying actually talking to you about stuff here. But I think honestly, this is the kind of podcast that I've wanted to have with people. I spoke about a few different things with Marcus, but I'm enjoying actually just talking to you about just going down rabbit holes, man. And
Yeah, which is like my life. You know, if I was to have an
yeah,
autobiography, it would be down the rabbit hole, and it wouldn't be anything to do with like Alice in Wonderland. It would just be fucking. But all right, we can take it to a relevant place, right? We can sideline this, right? I I didn't. We were talking just before this about the fact that you'd taken on a bunch of commissions, and you were like, Jesus, now we're tattooing. So I've now
yeah,
got to do all this work, and I've got to tattoo, and. I've always been really hesitant about commissions because when I know I've got a commission, I can't enjoy painting because it's. I'm assuming it's like having a mistress when you know that your missus is waiting at home. Where you're like every second you're like, well, she's getting a bit more like she's counting this.
yeah.
So like I don't take them. I once took 2 years to complete a commission, so I just don't. But by the last like year and a half, I just stopped painting because I was like, I can't justify painting if I'm not doing this painting. But I don't really feel like doing it, so I just won't paint. Um, but like when they said we've got 3 weeks to go, I was like, fuck it. Like there've been some really nice people lately, like Cam Rackham, the nicest artist in the world. Honestly, if anyone ever gets chat, if you ever get a chance to chat to him, super funny, really friendly. I'm sure he's got his own problems because he paints skulls, and who paints skulls if they're really happy? But he's really nice. Jinxie and Steve Cadell from
Yeah.
Out of Steps.
Really.
They, for me, if you're like people are like, oh, only tattooists. People need more Jinxies and Steves.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Like they go beyond professionalism with their niceness. They are the nicest people in the world. I had a couple of people, a couple of conventions come up and say hi that I just wasn't expecting. Like one girl from, I had a painting like that painting competition I was at. She was like, I haven't seen you in 4 years, but I loved your work. I still follow you. I just wanted to come up and say hi. And I was like, holy shit, like you don't even speak English and you've made that well. And you've made an effort to come up and you're my girlfriend's favorite artist. And I was like, this is her. This is Simona. Like,
Amazing.
and same with Anita came on, was like, I love your tattoo. Here's a free print. And I was like,
Wow.
man, like it cost her £5, but that's the
Yeah, it's not
that's
that
the
though,
stuff
is
that's
it?
been so good for me. I was like,
Yeah.
man, I've got the time. I'm gonna do some paintings for these people that they're not expecting. And I
Yeah.
sent those out to those people, and it made me feel amazing because they loved them. Which is nice that I've got to the point where I send someone a painting and I'm fairly sure that they're going to be like, thanks, rather than like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't make me post it on my Instagram or like,
Yeah.
like we'll put that over in the corner. Like,
Yeah.
cover it. So that's like, and that's one of the rewards from working hard is that I get to do things for people. I try and paint things for good people.
Yeah.
Like even that fucking burger that I painted, which is so stupid.
So
It's a
good though.
fucking
Yeah.
chicken burger, and I was like, that's stupid. I was like, it's really funny. Like I've been doing fine art for a while, and
I
just
fucking love it though. It's so
yeah,
good.
and like it made me giggle the entire time, which is what I'm all about. Like wasting my own time is my way forward. But I was chatting to him like a week before, and he just gave me some free wings, like chicken wings, and I was like, sweet. And then next time he's in town, I'll drop off a painting to him, and I know that will. So I get to like
Dude.
use my hard work for good reasons, but like without equating it mathematically. I gained like 800 followers, which for someone with my following is 20% of like
Yeah.
just doing things that were like, I was like, I just want to help. Like this person was nice. and they did something that they weren't expecting a reward from. They were just saying hi, but that meant a lot to me. I want to give it back, and it seems to have made a bit of a difference.
That's good though, man. And that's just a very, very warm side of your personality. I feel like that, you know, like when you get a skill, which obviously we're commissioned artists anyway, we do tattoos and we get commissioned by other people and we get paid to put something on them forever. But when you actually have a skill like painting, it's like one of the things where, okay, people can commission me to do them, but I can also paint something for someone that I know, especially at your level of artistry and how you can push paint around on a canvas to a final point of like, yeah, I'm done. Check it out. You know, people are going to just be like, dude, this is going in a frame on my wall above my fireplace or something like that. People can be so immersed and in love with it because an original is where it's at. You know, I mean, prints are really good, and I have tons of prints in my studio, up in my attic, which what I've had in my studio. But originals, there, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Originals are where it's at, man. And when you actually put yourself out there and you actually give that person, here is a section of my time that I'm never going to get back, but it's for you, and that's for you. People just seem to be drawn to it, man. Whether it's a knife that you've created, or a guitar that you've carved out, or whatever, man. You know, like I definitely think there's something to that. You did a piece for someone who I really want to talk to as well, but I don't know if she will. You did a piece.
Kate will not want to talk.
Yeah, I would fucking.
This would be like, I love Kate to know, like, and that's why, because she tattooed my girlfriend, and I met her thinking she was this tattooing Goliath. I'm like, I know that Jeff Gogay would look at her work and be like, fuck.
Yeah.
But Kate is she's an energetic, anxious force, and I love her. But I worry that a lot of what she does out of guilt, rather than like, you know, like even when I get tattooed by her, like she uploaded a tattoo flash, and I was like, my girlfriend was like, you should get that on her neck, and I was like, we'd always argued that I wouldn't get my neck done, and I was like, fuck yeah, I want that on my neck. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna message straight away, and she was like, oh, we'll do something better than that on you. But I was like, if you don't want to do it, like, I don't know always whether I trust her to be like, I don't want to do it, or whether she'll be like, she's so lovely that she'll just say yes and like give up her day off and like,
yeah,
you know,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
it's like, it's a weird, she's super inspiring though.
Oh my God. Like, and again, somebody else who I follow who's from the UK that I'm completely into and just feel like they've got something to say, but because she definitely does have something to say. You know, I mean, I know a lot of it is a very, very anxious output a lot of the time. You know, but when she couples it with this piece of art that she's created, that you're like, dude, what the fuck? How did you learn?
The worst thing about her, I've been teaching my apprentice that like, hey, you build the frame, and then no matter what, you've got a solid foundation. Anything that goes wrong, you've deviated from the frame.
Yeah.
She will just literally one line and go from there, and the whole thing's. She drew a pangolin on for my girlfriend, scale by scale, no grids, all fucking uniform. And I'm like, that's not. I said to Kiri, like, that's not how you draw. Like, no, ignore her. Like, she's the one exception to the rule. But like, she's just a master of, I think, anything she's interested in, which is a really interesting. I've got Silver Surfer on my arm. And she was like, oh, that's Norrin Rad. And I was like, what?
What?
And I just hadn't heard someone else call it that name for so long that I'd forgotten that was his name.
Right,
and she was like, she's a comic book enthusiast. She's an expert in that. Psychology, foraging, fucking pagans, anything that she wants to know about, she would have a knowledge that you'd be like, it would be worth asking her about. But she did, for me, she taught me a lot about what is healthy, how you run a healthy business.
Right. Okay.
You know, because she stopped taking money off people when they got their tattoo, and had to close down her studio because people would be like, "Can I owe you?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, no worries." And then and then she had to shut down her studio, and I'm like, "That's because if professionalism has its own line."
Yeah, it definitely does. I've had to heard that a few times, man. It's I think when I first started, when I worked in a real studio that wasn't an alchemy shop, That guy beat it into me, not physically, but he would say to me, you know, like I would do a tattoo on someone, and I was just glad to have had the canvas
Yeah,
to
still
tattoo.
do. I have trouble charging.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So you're like, you know, you're this much an hour, or you know, you've created a day rate of this much where you feel comfortable judging it from other people's work, you know, whatever. So you're like, right, okay, it's this much. But then you do it and you're like, give us this. You know what I mean? And he used to be like, the
Because it
person.
feels bad to be like,
Yeah.
man, I love this. Like, if I do a tattoo I love, I'm like, oh, it feels bad. Like, I enjoyed that probably a lot more than you did, but like,
Yeah.
pay
But
me. Like,
you need the money, and it could,
mm,
because money, you know, pays the bills, and it buys houses, and
sustainability,
yeah, man, exactly.
consolidate rather than just progress.
Exactly, you know. So it is a very tough pill to swallow at times, you know, charging, being an artist that's commissioned to do something. It definitely is. And I think a lot of people that have that have got to this far in our conversation will be like, yeah, I do agree with that, you know.
Oh shit! I've only just seen the time.
Yeah. No, I fucking love it, man. Honestly, I
Sorry,
think
man. Yes,
we
I
need a
do.
part two. We definitely do. But no, Josh, man, I fucking I want to meet you one day. I think I will. I'll cross
We
your path.
will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for sure, man.
I fucking really love your work. Every single time I see it, whether it's a painting, your painting is so high level, and just to see when you look, if anybody that's never seen Josh, you look back on his Instagram and you scroll through to the start and you scroll through to where he is now, and the past few years, just the steps up of just like and you just starting to immerse as just this high level world class artist in the UK. I fucking love it. That's my opinion though, and you're probably going to be like, shut the fuck up.
Like that's the wonderful thing about Instagram, like, is that it's a portfolio you don't get to delete to a certain degree. And
Yes.
like, yeah, like maybe I don't love my paintings so much. Like, I kind of think that a lot of my paintings now are sarcastic because I do them because I think they're silly. Like, I paint cats rather than naked women because I think that's a horrific waste of time and that's funny.
Yeah.
But like when I look back on it, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that was bad. At least this is better.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, you can always be your worst enemy with stuff like that. I think looking, that's another thing I wanted to say to you as well. Looking at your paintings as well, and just having that touch of Sean Barber-esque at times when you decided to decorate them with a tattoo. I thought, you know, because I've seen other people do that before, and he's the one person that I've seen do that. That's been like, oh, he's painting tattoos on people on something. But when you look at what you've done, you've taken it up a level and you've put like, you know, like a dragon on a British bulldog, or you put like,
I can get nerdy about this, but like, if you've got 2 minutes,
yeah, go for it, man.
Right. It's super nerdy. So if you want to punch me at the end of it, like I'm used to being bullied. I kind of think sometimes painting's like magic, right? And not like real, like Harry Potter shit. It's like someone saying magic doesn't exist. Now watch this. So it's like, it's that René Magritte, this is not a pipe. Like, so you're saying this doesn't exist, but I'm going to try and convince you it is. Like, I started painting Sphinx cats because I didn't like painting fur. I was bored of painting skulls. And my cat has got a marking that looks a little bit like a Japanese bodysuit. That's literally the only, and I thought that would be funny as a waste of time. And then I was like, that was enjoyable, started doing it again. But it was the thing of, I'm going to lie to you, but I want you to, at the end of the lie, be like, but did he lie? Or was the lie that he said he was going to lie to me?
Yeah.
Like, and that's, I find there's what, it's weirdly enough, it's why I really like the unfinished style, because it looks like I had for me, it feels like some dog sit down in a chair and he posed for 3 hours, which is funny again, like so stupid, which is, yeah, it's just, I find it infinitely funny. But it's like, yeah. And then you go, oh, he moved. So that's the end of the session, done.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just another trompe l'oeil of being like, it's a painting, but is it a photo? I find that like that blur of like putting an outline around a realistic tattoo.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. It's fucking cool though, man. So it's one of those things though where I love people. I love the way people describe the theory behind their own work as well. You know, I mean, a lot of people.
There is no, like, I think that's the worst thing is it's always like, yeah, maybe I was thinking this, but like most of the time, literally, it's just that was funny for me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, and then afterwards, one of my friends was like, you know, it's nudism without the voyeurism. And I was like, man, it's a fucking cat, you know? Like,
Yeah, don't overthink it. Like,
yeah.
yeah, man. Even when you did Dio with the bio and everything, I thought that was sick. I didn't even click that was Marcus's dog, and then I was like, that looks like fucking. Oh shit! Right? Yeah. No. Yeah. That clicks
Mm.
now. You know, it was really cool
Yeah.
touch, man.
That's the worst thing is like, if you love your pet animal and it's on my Instagram, I've probably screenshotted it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially
Which
when
is like,
it's so photogenic, man. You know.
yeah, and like they're so much better at photo taking than I am. Like that's the main thing. I can't take photos, so I'm just, and then I message them and be like, I screenshot this, can I have it? And most artists are like,
Yeah. How about it?
saves
You know?
me fucking doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking. Do you have quite a lot of large scale work ongoing at the moment then?
I have no idea. Like, I don't really remember what I did today. I know that's bad, but like, I'm back into tattoo mode. I think so. Like, I know I came back and I just hit out like all of the pieces that I remember. But tomorrow, some person will turn up and I'll be like,
Oh,
fucking, I love this one. Yeah, and that, like, that's so rewarding. I think I started a bunch of backs like pre-lockdown. So yeah, I hope so. And I know like we're gonna put the girl that's got the Venetian stuff, Jenna, lovely girl. She's starting. She's gonna full torso minus the chest.
right.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm so lucky with my clients, man. Like I honestly, it blows my mind that I have one guy who's been getting tattooed once a week, 8 hours a day. Like that's my day rate. Once a week for the last year and a half, and we just started again yesterday, and you know that's just an ongoing bodysuit project that I can't imagine someone that has it. Like I said, it's hard for my apprentice because I went, you won't ever get, he's a unicorn. Like I call him my unicorn, and like because I'm like, he doesn't exist in the real world. Like he turns up at the studio and he's got that amount of money every week. He can only do weekdays, not weekends, and he's from what I can tell, he's dead from the waist, like from the chin down.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel anything. Yeah.
And I'm like, and also he's not in a rush. So yeah, and I'm like, you won't get a guy like him. I'm really sorry, like that you're watching me have him because he doesn't really exist.
It's weird though, man, that even like all the way up here, there are people like that, man. I do have people, you know, like if somebody does cancel, there's people that you just turn to and you're like, should we carry on? And they're like, yeah, how long do you want to do? I'm good for like 6 hours if you want to go. Like I'm good. And you're like, really? Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, you've got the session, they're actually booked in, and they come and they do another 6 hours and they pay you and everything's
This
good.
guy turned up and he was like, I want a bodysuit. And I was like, man, you haven't had any tattoos. Like,
Wow.
You don't know that you like them. Like, you might get them done and think, like, I'm sure you get it, where a minute in, you're like, no, this was a bad idea.
This was a bad idea.
Yeah. And now I'm stuck, or you're thinking of excuses. And and so I said, let's do 2 sleeves and go from there. And then he finished them, and we were like, oh, yeah, he's my unicorn. I love him. Honestly, I put up a welcome home banner. But yeah, so I've got a bunch of pieces in the work, but who knows if I'll post them because I've got a fucking terrible memory. So,
oh mate, listen, I'm gonna get going. It's been
sorry.
No, mate. Honestly, do not apologize. I'm sorry that it's late, and we definitely need a part 2. I would fucking love to the part 2 to be down in your studio or somewhere where.
Yeah, let's sort that out, man.
Yeah,
let's organize this. Let's make it happen.
But I knew it would be like this, so it was, and that's why I wanted the conversation. And so I'm just sorry, I was so astute and on it in lockdown, but then as soon as work hit, it was like, oh fuck, you know. And I was trying to fit in all the other stuff.
The whole world went to crap, and I was like, what day is it? And the girlfriend was like, it's like Wednesday. I was like, is that happening? No, it's fine. It's all gone weird. I'm so glad we're chatting, man. It's fucking fun. Like, one thing my girlfriend said, she was like, don't ramble. And I was like, it's gonna happen.
I'm sorry, but that's just what I do. No. To be honest, man, honestly, I've talked to quite a lot of people, and so do you. But like, my honest assessment is it's all interesting shit, and I think like you're good at talking. You were ready to listen to me, and I was ready to listen to you. So it's all good, man, and I'm excited to get it out.
Yeah, sick, man. Right.
No worries, man. Listen, I will speak to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, we'll sort it out. Send me that photo of that terrible tattoo.
Yes, I will do. I'll send it you. Get ready. Get ready. See you in a bit, man.
See you in a bit, dude.
Bye bye.